Hey, welcome to German Tech Breaks. Today, we're going to talk about a piece of software called Shotcut. This is going to be something that I think will be useful for editing your recorded lectures, whether they're synchronous or asynchronous. We did talk a couple weeks ago in a video about Screencastify. And this is going to be kind of a similar situation. Shotcut is a little bit more robust, which may be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how much functionality you actually need. But the good thing about Shotcut is that, unlike Screencastify, there is no limit on the number of licenses. Shotcut is free software, so anybody should be able to get that. Now go ahead and put a link down in the description below so that you can access that and get it installed. Okay, so this is our user interface for Shotcut now that we're in. We're going to go ahead and let me draw your attention real fast to a couple things over here. Right here in this box, we've got recent projects. As you can see, there's only a couple that I've been kind of testing around with so far. But as you begin to work on more and more projects, those will pop up over here. In this box, we've got new project. This is how you can start a new project to edit. So you can set what folder you want to put it in. I'll just use the default for today. Now we're going to give it a project name. Let's go test tech break Shotcut. Not shortcut. That's an easy mistake to make. I think I did that in the last video actually. But it is Shotcut. Video mode. Now, as that says there, the video mode will be set by whatever your first file is on the timeline. So if it's a video file, you should be fine. That should all match up well. If you're going to be using an image for the first file on your timeline, though, it suggests setting it to 1920 by 1080p. And you can do that here. You see all these options here. But for today, we're just going to go ahead and leave it on automatic, and it'll just take whatever we use for our first video. So when we're ready, we're going to go ahead and hit start. And here's our user interface, but I think it's easier to make a little bit more sense of things when we actually have a file to work with. So that's going to be the first thing that we do today. So I'm going to go up here to open file, and I'll grab this intro file here. Now these are the same files that we used.
Hello, it's August 20th.
Oops. These are the same files that I used on my Screencastify instruction. So right here, you can see this is our preview section. Right now, we're previewing the source. However, I can go ahead and click and drag this down into our timeline. Now this video becomes part of the timeline. As I click and add files, we can preview the project as a whole instead of just the source. So if I'm looking at, if I click on source, that's what we're going to be previewing is just that video file. But if I want to preview the entire project, including it once I've added other videos into the timeline, I want to click on project. And that'll show me in the preview screen up here the entire video that we've been working on that is located inside of this timeline. All right, so kind of like last time, there's a couple things that I want to show you here. First of all, we can edit the scope of our timeline by clicking and dragging. That's going to give us a little more zoomed in, close-up view of the timeline. It'll let you work a little more closely, a little bit more finesse in how we are editing things. Or you can zoom out a little. Oops, that's a lot. You can zoom out a little bit, and it's easier to work with the files when you have a lot of files and you're zoomed out. Like last time, we can split clips. And this is going to be one of the things that I think you should take note of is, let's say, as you can see, I'm scrubbing with the header. I'm clicking where this header is. That's the white vertical line there. I can also, now that I've selected it, I can move it. As you can see, it's just barely ticking. I'm using the arrow key. So arrow key right to go forward, or arrow key left can go backward. And that can let you kind of more fine tune where your header is there. Let's say right here, and let's say I've identified this as a spot that I want to split the video at. So I'll put the header where I want, And then I'm going to go up to here to split at the playhead. So that's going to give me, that's going to split my file in two. So now I've got this file here, and then on the other side, this file here. Now, as is, just like in Screencastify, if we let this run, there's going to be no discernible difference between that as is currently. However, let's say I wanted to get rid of this section. I can go ahead and just hit delete on my keyboard, and it's gone. Now our video begins where our header had originally been set. Okay, now there's a couple other ways that we can edit video on this as well. So let me zoom in a little bit because we're going to want to more fine tune this, I think. We'll move our playhead up here. First of all, you can see now that I've gotten rid of that first section, there's some empty space here where the video starts here. So we're going to probably want to go ahead and move our video up. Let's say that there's a section on the end that I want to trim off. So we're going to want to find where that is. We can watch the preview, remember, to see where that is. And let's say that I've identified it now. I can hover my mouse over the end of this clip, and you'll see that I've got kind of a double-edged arrow, one arrow pointing left, one right. Once I see that, and it's a little bit hard to get, but once you get it, go ahead and click and drag. And now I'm actually dragging the video, so I'm trimming the video to kind of cut off the end where it was. Now, one thing I'd like to point out right now is that this is a little bit of a fine tuning. Once again, the scope of the timeline, adjusting that might help. But also, we've got this little history pane up here. And you may have to click on the, my zoom toolbar is kind of in the way right now. Here it is. You may have to click on the history pane to get that up. You can also get rid of it by clicking X. But once it's up, this will let you kind of go through to different parts of the video as you make changes in case you screw up or you want to go back before you made a change. But this will help you just in case you're worried about making any big moves. Don't worry, you've got this history pane that's actually pretty easy to work with and lets you go back to earlier points. Okay, so now I'm gonna zoom out a little bit here because I'm gonna wanna add maybe another file. Now that we did our intro, let's go ahead and add another file here. So this is the one that I'd worked with last time as well, where we had cut out the beginning. So you can drag that down. Again, I'm clicking and dragging down onto the timeline. You can see this yellow is just empty space right now. If I were to play the project from there, once it was done, it would just run black for a second before going. You probably don't want that, so you can butt these up to each other, at which point they would run directly into each other. Or if you want, you can click and drag and have them overlap just a little bit. And that's going to automatically build in a transition. So this would be I believe fade transition is the default that it uses. So you can see it kind of fades there. If I hit Control and click, go to Properties, I can adjust, I guess it's dissolve transition is what it was using. But I can adjust what type of transition I want to do. And again, I got there by going to this purple transition area, holding Control, clicking, and going to Properties. Okay, well that's the basics of just some of the simple editing you can do. There's another couple things that I just kind of wanted to bring up that may be useful that this software allows for. The first is you can put images into the timeline as well. So if we wanted to put an image in, all we'd have to do is go to Open File. There's one right here of the library. And we would just click and drag this into the timeline, just wherever we wanted it to go. In addition, this is something you can do with video too. If you want to add something to the timeline, and it's up here as the source currently, In addition to clicking and dragging, you could also just append to the current track, and it adds it right there. So no need to click and drag even if that's what you want to do. Additionally, if you're working with a lot of complex files, and I assume this probably isn't going to often be the case, but if you do want to work with multiple tracks on the timeline, you can go to these settings over here, click on that, and you can add both the video or audio track. And what that does is it just gives you a second track here to work with. We're probably not going to need to worry about that right now, though. One other thing that may be useful here is you can separate audio from video tracks. So if you wanted to do that, you would just click on the file that you wanted to work with, Control, click, and we're going to go detach audio. So now you can see we've got our video file here, and then down here at the bottom is our audio file that's separate from the video file that we're working with now. So for instance, if we wanted to just have lecture, as you're showing maybe images that you've handpicked, you could replace the video then with those images. So what that would look like maybe is, if this was my lecture, I would keep the audio there, but I would click on the video, get rid of the video with delete, and then we'd go find one of the images that we wanted. So click that. So now what we would have is, as this audio is going on down here, it'll be showing the image that we selected.
Hello, it's August 21st, 2020. It is about noon.
Okay. Another thing we can do is we can go to this filters tab up here. And there's a lot to work with here, so I'm not going to go too in depth this time. You can make a lot of editing to your video. Once again, I don't think most lectures are really going to even need that. But one thing you can find here is the ability to add text. So I scrolled down on the filters tab to text here. You can see, let's put tech break. That's what I'm editing. In the source over here, I can adjust its position. You see the position, that moves it on the x-axis. I can move it down on the y-axis. Let's go move it back that way. So you can just kind of adjust that how you like. Change the font and stuff up here. You can change the size. So you can make your own adjustments to that if adding text is something that would be useful to you. All right, well, once you've finished your video, the most important part is reaping the benefits of all the work you've done. So we've got to export this thing. So to do that, we're going to go up here to export, export tab. Now there's a lot of different little ways that you can fidget with how the file is saved, but right here, we're going to go ahead and just use the default file. I think for most cases, that's going to work for everything we need to do. So instead of messing with any of this here, we do want to make sure it's coming from the timeline, because otherwise, if we're just exporting the source, then that's just going to be the one video file that we probably have saved somewhere else in our computer anyway. So you do want to make sure it's timeline, but other than that, I would just go to export file. You can name it, you can save where it's going, but then we'll go ahead and hit save. And then wherever you specified that file to go, that's where it's going to end up on your computer. And from there, you can put it onto Google Drive, you can put it onto YouTube, wherever. I'm sure you're probably used to storing your video files somewhere by now. So wherever works well for you is where you can put that file. All right, well, thanks for listening today. Hopefully this is helpful for some of you. Once again, this is not something you need licensing for, but if you need any help, please reach out to the Learning Technologies team at ltt@truman.edu, or you can contact me directly at tfitzler@truman.edu. All right, thanks. See you next week.